This is a special meeting concerning the Green River Covered Bridge condition, the possibilities of rehab and/or a temporary bridge and a possible new bridge. Whatever the situation is, the bridge is in bad shape right now. It's rated at 4 ton. And we need to do something. Residents on that side of the river are in dire straits for fire protection because mutual aid is considerably longer than what our department would get to, and residents in Halifax use that bridge on a daily basis. We will go from there. Katie has done some research from Hoyle and Tanner, I think.
We had some communication with them.
Yeah.
And asked them to give some scenarios to think about. So they presented 3 options, which I need copies of, but there, if you guys want to reference them. I do. You do. So I don't know if you've had a chance to review them.
I mean, I've had a chance to review them. I think it would be good to, if you had the opportunity, Katie, to do like a quick summarization for the people who are just getting that paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Option 1 is
Summary.
4-ton load, which we currently have a rehab project on deep into the planning stages for rehabbing the covered bridge. It was brought to our attention that from a load rating test that was done by the state, that the load capacity would be dropped to 4 tons. They recommended replacing the deck, and that would and drop the distribution timbers underneath the bridge, and that would help get back closer to the 8-ton load.
Well, 5.5.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's what Hoyle and that would kind of shake itself out, but it would get back. Hoyle and Tanner wouldn't confirm the 8-ton load unless they did their own testing on it. So that's why I kind of added in there. The revision could potentially raise the load capacity to 5.5 tons by VTrans, not so much our engineer. The second option, and then we could apply for funding to replace the deck. The second option is an attempt to get back to the 8-ton load, which it was before, which would be Hoyle and Tanner doing more detailed analysis on the bridge and coming up with not just deck and dropping the timbers, but maybe some other fixes that could get rolled in to a project that would bring it back to 8-ton. And then the third option is if the board wanted to try and get the bridge to load for more than 8 tons. There would have to be some pretty in-depth things done to the covered bridge to get there.
Wasn't it the sense that it's very unlikely that they would ever approve, the bridge committee would ever approve more than 8 ton?
Correct. Which just means that we wouldn't be able to get any funding for it, that it would be on the town's dime.
Or quarter, as the case may be.
There was $100,000 to do the deck.
$100,000 to do. That's just estimate. No hard number on that.
So to me, $100,000 to raise that load from 4 to 5.5 doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That $100,000 could be well spent downriver doing.
Well, let's go on to the Mark Pickering stuff.
Can I just add to that though? If you were to replace the deck, we could apply for funding, so we'd only pay $20,000 for it.
Okay.
So if we could get a grant to add onto the, so we wouldn't pay the full 100.
Yeah.
We pay 20%. They pay 80.
But still, we're not getting anything on the bridge, really.
Sure. And option 2, getting it back to an 8-ton load, same thing. We would apply for funding for that option as well.
And we have no estimate of what that option would be.
That kind of all over the course of this last few days.
Sure. And you finally heard from Mark Pickering.
I did. We played a little message tag. So I don't know if you wanted to think about the 3 options or you wanted to just have more discussion. Mark said that he couldn't really shed that much light on a temporary bridge. In terms of cost, he recommended that I ask Renaud, because if we rented it from the state, we would still have to pay to transport it, put it together, and take it down. So those are all the costs, and the biggest cost associated with all of that is right-of-way acquisitions, building a new section of road, figuring out where to place it, all of that sort of planning and securing all that stuff.
Personally, at some point in time, there's got to be a new bridge.
I think everybody agrees on that.
Yeah. And I think that...
Well, actually, I say that, and then I had some other thoughts about it, but go ahead.
I think now is probably the best chance we're going to have to maybe even get some federal stuff in here to start the process at least. We can keep pouring money into the bridge every 10 years, and the cars get lighter and the trucks get bigger, so the truck can't go through, the grader can't go through. Dan's not going to put any equipment through this, so that means he's going way around. The fuel trucks, the gas trucks, none of that can go through that bridge. And the people on the other side are going to feel that extra cost. And it's not like it's something that's just popped up. We've been dealing with this for years.
Oh, yeah.
That we need a new bridge. Addison was kind enough a few years ago to do some work and had a meeting at the church over there on a proposal. I don't know if the state would buy that or not, but what are your input on that, Addison, as far as right-of-way and the meeting you had, remember, what, 7 or 8 years ago at the church?
Yeah, I didn't quite get the beginning of that.
Where you drew up the plan, what's your input on that? What's the potential for that being something that's doable?
Well, the only concern that I have is the wetland. As far as being structurally, well, from a construction point of view, I don't see any big problem. There are two problems. One is the wetland. I don't know, I'm not sure. Well, in my experience has been the town would have to set aside some land somewhere else to replace it. That's the policy.
To replace the wetland?
Yes.
Yes. To take its place. This has been the policy in past Act 250 land use permits. They've made the applicant set aside some land somewhere else, whether it was 2 acres or 3 acres, so that we aren't losing land, wetland, you might say. That's not policy.
That's it. Yeah, it's just interesting to me. It's like you can have this wetland, but you've got to give me some new wetland over there.
That's right. Yeah. I don't know how much of a problem that's going to be. The other is where the bridge would cross onto the river road is a high bank, and it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for traffic. Quite a little of that bank's going to be taken out. Now that was our land, and there's going to be no problem. Depending on exactly where the bridge would be, there may be some of the land might be Joan mentions. The boundary line comes down off the mountain, the piece that we sold, about where the field meets the river. So probably you'd say on our land, on the upper side, but you still got to take quite a lot of material out on the back side. Those are the only real big problems I can see.
Just to clarify, that's on the river road side.
Yeah. On the west side, the river road, the back side. For turning movements and so forth, that bank is there. And the distance between the west abutment and that bank isn't very much.
So it sounds like there are some potential obstacles, but it is probably things that we could do workarounds.
I would think so.
And I totally appreciate, I've shared that sort of guilt frustration that we haven't gotten started on this whole project earlier of putting in place the structures, the policies, the right-of-ways to get a new bridge started. But where we are right now, if we say full steam ahead with the new bridge, Dick, I still think that I cannot imagine us doing that in less than 5 years. Am I being, that seems like, and in the meantime, I think We've got some funding in place, and I think we're going to need to invest in the bridge that we've got. And I would be totally in favor of full steam ahead on
Temporary bridge.
a temporary bridge or getting in line for a new bridge. $5 million, this conservative estimate, or this estimate, 20% of that is $1 million. That's going to take some real serious creative financing and some time to get that. I just want to finish just so that I feel like we have no choice but to do a two-pronged approach.
We shouldn't make the assumption that 20% that we'd be paying $1 million, because it was made pretty clear to me that there wouldn't be funding that we could get for a new bridge.
Okay. Okay. So in best case scenario, 20%. Maybe not realistic case scenario, but either way, even at the least, it's going to be, a lot of money. So, what do you think, Dan? I
think now's the time to get started on it.
I agree.
No time than the present.
As a state, have you talked with the state about how long it's going to take, when they can start, or anything about a new bridge?
Has Jared or MT said anything to you about what they've started to do? I guess they stopped because they're afraid they're going to step on toes, but
They started at one time, way back when Harvey was road commissioner. They said they would start, but I don't think it ever got started.
Yeah.
What were they working on?
They were looking at the cost for a road and a temporary bridge through Menard.
A temporary bridge at that spot that Addison proposed?
Yes.
So do we know how big that bridge is going to have to be? Do we have any sense of what a temporary bridge would cost us?
But the first thing that we would have to do is determine if the town can acquire the land to do any of that.
Right, no, understood.
Yeah.
Understood that. Just brainstorming, but let's just say we could get the land in.
Sure.
So we'd still need to know before we went down that path, what's a temporary bridge going to cost?
Yeah, I asked Jared, and he said that Renaud said they were available if they needed them, but he didn't get any costs from them.
Yeah.
That's on my to-do list today.
How much time do we have, assuming we proceed with what the original plans were? How much time do we have before it can go up for bids and done this year?
What?
Are we really pushed for time?
Which project are you talking about?
Oil and Tanner, whatever it is. The present plans.
Sure.
Before
Without replacing the deck?
Pardon?
Including a deck replacement?
No,
just what the president.
No, just the way it is right now.
I'm not quite clear.
He's saying if we were going to go ahead
with the rehab project.
With the rehab project.
You guys already decided to defer it.
Yeah, we
Right.
deferred that until next year.
Till next year.
Yeah.
And the rehab project wouldn't do anything to add capacity.
We kicked it
Yeah.
back, yeah.
Because the rehab
Okay.
project doesn't do anything to add capacity.
It what?
The rehab project, as it's currently planned, doesn't do anything to add load capacity of the bridge.
Right.
It was just
Okay, I have a good question. Is there, at option one, potentially raise the load capacity to 5.5 ton?
Yeah. Yeah.
Underneath that, in that option, it would still be next year.
yes,
Next year.
Next summer.
With a new deck.
yeah.
I'm
Unless
concerned about this potentially.
Yeah.
You see, they never brought it up, the fact that the deck is the problem. The state said the deck was the problem.
At
Part
the
of the
very
problem, yes.
late into the game, they said the deck was the problem. They hadn't said that all the way along. This was part of our surprise and
Past
frustration.
inspections, they haven't said it.
No.
No. Sean?
Could you define what you call the deck? What is that actually?
It's
The deck.
the runners and what are they, 3 by what underneath?
The whole floor.
The whole floor.
Floor of it, underneath the
Yeah.
runners.
Does that
Yeah.
include the beams underneath with the steel on them?
Yeah.
No,
No, just the floor.
no, just the floor and the runners is what they call the deck. And I guess what's currently down there is oversized for the bridge.
Yeah.
I think it gets you 8 inches thick, and the state is proposing something that gets to more like 5 inches thick and still does the job, but it takes a lot of the load off.
I think we kind of need to know whether the state, if we put a new deck in next year, whether the state would go along with a 5.5 ton.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
or we're wasting our time. But it seems like we better know that. I mean, that would be my feel. I hate to see any more money put into the bridge when we need a new one. And so my opinion would be that if the state would say, hey, you can go up to 5.5 tons if you put a new deck in, and add that to the project next year.
Yeah.
Didn't Katie say at the last meeting, though, that there is money that's specifically there for the covered bridge?
Rehab.
That can be expended, and it can be used for anything else.
No.
So, as I look at it, the covered bridge is a real asset to Green River and Guilford. So, not a full-time, forever transportation bridge, but it could be, put aside the way the Creamery Bridge was in Brattleboro. And so we'd have a pedestrian bridge and a bicycle bridge, and we still have to do the work anyway. So it sort of seems to me that it's almost a crisis situation at this point. We might as well get started ASAP and put some money that's earmarked for the bridge and can't be used for anything else. We might as well do something. I think the people of the town of Guilford would feel better if something was being done as soon as possible.
What's the town of Halifax? What kind of input do they have over there?
Well, I can't speak for the town of Halifax. I can only speak for myself. We're very interested because it would impact our lives greatly to have to go all the way around to the point that we're actually considering we may rent in Brattleboro during the course of this so we can get the kids to school. But one question I have is, you're talking about doing a temporary bridge, but it seems to me that rehabbing the bridge makes more sense because you're not going to get grant money to get a temporary bridge, whereas you can get grant money for the covered bridge. What's attractive about the bridge, other than the obvious, is that people will fund it, and especially if it's a transportation bridge. I'm curious, once it's a pedestrian bridge, if we can still get grant money for it, which is a concern for those of us that want to keep Green River as we see Green River today. And while I totally agree that we need a new bridge downriver, I understand all of that, part of me worries because in the 10-year plan then we have this beautiful new bridge, but yet the Green River Bridge then goes sort of the way the Creamery Bridge in that it's beautiful now, but who's going to pay for its basically it's on a downward trajectory of being, because I don't know how long it would take before it's no longer a pedestrian bridge. But
can I ask a question about the current rehab plan that we voted to defer? If part of that plan has to do with changing the roof material, and that would significantly lighten the load, would it not?
It depends. If you do it Sean's way, it's not.
It doesn't make that much of a difference.
It doesn't make that much of a difference. So best case scenario to me would be if we were able to get funding for deck replacement, hold the funding for the current rehab project, get that all in place for next summer, and meanwhile be charging ahead for a replacement bridge. You're right, Leland, and that's a really good point, that when this bridge becomes a strictly pedestrian bridge, that I hadn't even thought about that. But the fact of the matter is, regardless of that, we need to have a bridge that can accommodate heavy equipment.
right, so one question I have, and I'm not sure this group can answer, is, a new bridge is also going to cost millions of dollars. I almost wonder, can we put the money into the covered bridge to the degree that you buy yourself quite a bit of time instead of like $100,000 here, $100,000 there? You actually put, maybe the state won't rebuild the bridge to that degree, but I wonder if we're going to spend tens of millions of dollars on a bridge, could we put that money into the Green River Bridge and make it
The sense that we've
a modern bridge?
Regardless what we do to that bridge, it's not big enough.
It's not physically big enough.
It's a size issue. Fire trucks have to slow down, and the new fire truck has to slow down to a crawl to get through there without hitting the top.
And other people do hit the top.
And you look at the bridge, both ends have been knocked down from. So whatever we could make it up to 100 ton, it would still be too small for the big bridge. And that's part of the issue. It's not just the condition of the bridge itself, but part of the issue is it's physically too small for traffic to go through.
Sean had his hand up.
Pardon?
Sean had his hand up.
Yes, he did. I interrupted him.
I think that if the rehab was done on the bridge with the money that is available from the grants, I think if the traffic was off that bridge then, it would sit there for a long, long time with no further need. If we had a new roof, if they did the work that Lewandowski originally proposed, it could sit there for, unless it got taken out by a hurricane or something, it could sit there for many, many years and be serviceable as a pedestrian bridge.
Has anyone really looked at option 2?
Let's go back to option.
Yeah, I would love to revisit option 2.
So to determine if the bridge can be posted for 8 ton, we would need to perform analysis. That's the live load rating that.
Not live load.
Okay.
Just a more detailed analysis.
And then sort of do a little. And I'm assuming that the increased sister members, splice plates, etc., would be part of the next year's rehab.
Our next grant application. So
Right.
not just the deck. It would
And
be
get it back to 8
and
ton.
suggestions and get back to 8 ton.
I mean, that does make sense to me. I was under the understanding, to get back to your question about getting that bridge in shape, that even aside from the size, for whatever reason, they're not going to rate a covered bridge at more than 8 tons. It's just highly unlikely. So, if we can, as we apply for the deck replacement, build into it this increased.
Yeah, so the scope is a little greater for what we'd be applying for. It's not just the deck, it's doing some of these other recommendations that might come out of the analysis. Get funding for that. Same time frame as option 1, only you get the bridge back to that load, which is
8 ton?
Yeah.
exactly where.
You're gonna go through it down with the trucks?
You're still going to be.
But still look for an alternative, but still work on the other bridge. So these two would be running
I think
concurrently.
we have to do 2 things at once. I think we just absolutely have to.
Yeah. I mean, the bridge as is okay for cars.
Yeah.
And anything beyond that, 8 ton is not gonna help. Fuel trucks and all
You
that.
just have to get a smaller car. You don't need to drive from Road to Bradley.
Johnny?
8 ton wouldn't
Another
do
question I
it.
had was the temporary bridge, if it was proposed in the site that Addison spoke about, would that then be the same site as a permanent new bridge?
I'll be right beside it.
Right beside
right
it, so that would be taken into consideration, that you put the temporary bridge, I mean, it seems inevitable to me that a temporary bridge is going to have to be seriously looked into very, very soon.
You think, even if because during this 365 days.
Well, the thing that worried me a little bit is the way the sort of the timeline.
Oh, it's worried
It
all of
was
us.
8 ton, now it's 4 ton, the next is closure. So I'm not sure, why they made the reduction from 8 to 4 tons. But there is a scientific, there's an engineering reason for
There
it.
was a lot of math on 3 pages.
Yeah, but it's engineering.
Yeah,
It's
I get it.
engineering. It means that the bridge is in trouble more than it was,
Yeah.
last year.
And there's one big word here.
Even engineering.
I understand, Sean, and I do too,
So
but
it
it's.
means that 840 in terms, or 1,000.
Well, you're making a leap there.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have to deal with what we've got in front of us
Yeah.
and not anticipate where we are. And I interrupted you now.
To nitpick is a big word down here with 2 letters in it. If, in option 2, if the results of the analysis were acceptable.
Well, that's good
Right
then.
here,
It's your option 2.
Yeah.
So what if you said that the bridge is going to be closer to the detailed analysis? What if you just go ahead right now and have them do the detailed analysis?
Yeah.
And be sure to work with communication with the state, and they may work it out and say, hey, if we replace the deck and some other work, we can take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
We
so
don't know
that.
that, do we? We don't know that.
No, unless they do an analysis.
So if we authorize that analysis stat, we would have a better way to decide whether that second option is worth pursuing. You're right. So the if is a big word.
Yeah.
And maybe it should just be the when instead of the if. Let's do that analysis.
But in option one, there's potentially is the same thing as if.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's an if in every one of these.
Yeah.
But can I step out and be a resident for a minute?
Sure.
Be a taxpayer at Guilford. I feel like we have to do option two while you're exploring temporary
Right.
permanent bridge.
Right.
And I think the two have to go
I think that's
concurrently, because if that's the direction you want to go in, is a temporary bridge with the idea of it turning into a permanent bridge location, that needs to start, because it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be, it's not going to be there by the end of summer.
Let me ask you this question.
Now I'm back on the job.
Let me ask you this question. Which side of the bridge are you approaching that from, the taxpayer in Guilford? The east side or the west side?
Which, I don't know what you're asking.
You said as a taxpayer in Guilford.
Yeah.
Yeah, are you talking from the west side or the east side?
I think as a taxpayer at Guilford, I think that a temporary bridge isn't going to be there that quickly, and you need to get this bridge set while you're doing the work. I think it's going to be a long process.
So I think
getting
she's
a temporary
thinking
bridge.
from either side in terms of, because
Either
we're all
side.
going to be paying for it, east and west.
I would like to know that there's a way that's getting safer for me to cross if this second option of another bridge takes longer than a year.
One thing that we hadn't talked about today, and I don't even know if it's worth throwing it in because it's just that devil's advocate thing that you threw out there last time, Katie, was the idea of contracting with, I don't know, Coleraine, Leiden for services so that people
In the near term?
in the near term for fuel, or fire safety, ambulance safety, just let's say at least during this 365 days.
That's already automatic.
Okay, so that's part of the mutual aid.
That's part of mutual aid, yes.
I think Jared and Michael are going to be here Monday night.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
I did ask them to come today and they couldn't.
Are we in a
So
position
everyone knows.
to make some recommendations today? I mean, because it's a special meeting, I'm not saying let's wrap this up. I'm just saying, are we in a position to make a recommendation, to make a motion and say we should do X, Y, and Z?
I would delay that until Monday night and we have a full board if we
Okay.
could, but I also could say that if we get a hold of Renaud and have them do a
Who would do the
temporary bridge
detailed
cost
analysis?
and
Would that be
Hoyle
Renaud?
and Tanner.
Oh, Hoyle and Tanner.
Yeah. Can I at least get you to decide that you're not going to do option one?
I would definitely,
Because that's what I really need. If
Yeah,
you did want to do option one, I would need to know now so we could get him working on revising plans now so we could make the cover bridge committee on July 8th.
yeah.
Say,
But if you want to do option 2 or 3, which I get the sense that option 3 is not even worth time.
Yeah.
If you're definitely not going to go with option 1, then that's
option
fine.
1 is that we're happy with this posting.
Just
And
do the deck replacement.
okay, yeah, I would, to me, I agree with you. Maybe to get 5.5 tons, maybe 4.5, maybe 6. It's not. It's not.
I would throw option 1 out.
I think option 2.
If you can just pass a motion.
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you.
Can I say one question?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah,
I'm not-
I'm concerned with this option too. I'm concerned about the deck and its relationship to reducing, going from 8 to 4 ton. I'm wondering if the deck is the real problem. That's what worries me.
What do you think?
They've had this inspection over the years, and suddenly the state wants to go from 8 to 4 ton. Are we sure that the new deck is going to solve that problem? That's why I said this recalculations ought to be done.
Well, but part of option 2 is that
It may be something else other than the deck that's critical.
And I think that would be revealed through option 2.
option 2 has that built-in. Option 2 doesn't mean full steam ahead with this sister joint splice plates and all this stuff. It means let's get more information. So that I think.
So it can be the deck and...
So I think we're not committing to. I would like it if they found out that with this additional work we could get it back up to 8 ton. That would be like, and then they lived happily ever after. But
Well, a new bridge
happier
fund
ever after.
plan.
Did you make that motion?
I was in mid-motion, and then I thought, I was glad Addison interrupted because I didn't want to jump into it. Are you ready for me to jump into it? Do people have other comments before we go that route? So I guess I would like to make the motion that we pursue option 2. I actually think we really, option 3 is not an option. So that we pursue option 2 in the sense that we see if we can get Hoyle and Tanner to do a more detailed analysis, and from that analysis we make a plan. I'm going to make another motion too.
That's not the motion you started to make.
It probably isn't. What was I going to say?
You're going to say we're going to disregard option 1.
Well, that's what I wondered. But then we really came to the fact that option 3 doesn't make any sense either.
Oh, option 3 doesn't either.
So that really left me with pursuing option 2.
I thought,
Which
You're absolutely right. The option.
well, I thought your motion was going to be that you would disregard option 1 and 3 and pursue with evaluation of option 2.
He said it much more succinctly. There's a surprise than I did. So yeah, I like your wording, Dick. Disregard options 1 and 2. Pursue option 2.
The analysis. Yes.
But at the same time, that's okay. So let's pass that motion.
All in favor?
At the same time, I think we need to hire a lawyer, and maybe this is the part we should do Monday night.
Yeah.
I think we need to hire a lawyer to get the right-of-way work started for the. For the location of a temporary / new bridge.
Well, you're first got to find out if the state would accept that route. If
That makes sense.
The way to go,
Yeah.
before you do anything.
You're right.
And
maybe that's on these next steps.
I think that exploring the idea of hiring an engineer to guide the process.
Would be the best way.
And
And
then-
should we wait till Monday night to do that when
You
you do a
can.
full board?
So can I just get?
Sean has his hand up too.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I just was wondering, the state did some kind of calculations which then precipitated the drop in the load rating. Isn't that information already there, why they dropped the load rating? In other words, Tanner and Associates would do an assessment, but hasn't it already been done by somebody? Because
John Weaver.
John Weaver, but not as detailed as Hoyle and Tanner would do it.
So I think what their detailed
Nowhere in the calculation do they said, the state say it's now 4 ton due to primarily the deck. They never said that. Is it the trusses, the carrying beams? They haven't said that.
That's where we want more
So
information.
something is a little bit obfuscated for some reason in that report.
Yeah.
And would it be worth?
Just 3 pages, isn't it, of figures that...
That's really what it is.
Yeah.
That's why I was laughing. But
Isn't there clarification possibilities on that?
I think we've pursued a
clarification.
clarification, and we Pam Thurber did not have a whole lot more to.
No, and I'm trying to keep my communication in email because I do want a paper trail for this.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And it's difficult having phone conversations. I just would prefer to do it in written communication, and I have no response from most of the people that I have communicated with and followed up on. Yeah, I'm into my third.
Hoyle and Tanner, whatever. They have pretty much admit that because they say we believe the bridge will require some strengthening of system members and some of the support for the North Truss, I think, is the problem. So there are other things that are involved rather than the deck.
And is the North Truss support and stuff, was that not part of our original grant? So what you're saying is we may need to expand our request beyond just the deck.
Yeah, that's option 2, would round out a full scope of work.
And then in terms of the other piece about the temporary bridge and pursuing what we need to do, wetlands, all of those issues, should we wait with that till Monday night?
Yeah, I think, Addis, can you come Monday night also? The meeting?
Will I?
Yeah, would you? Yes, please. Yeah, okay.
Oh, Monday. Yeah.
23rd, 6:30.
Sean? Or Halifax? Bring a bunch of Halifax people Monday night, yeah.
I'll go first because then it might key in. Deer Park Bridge, right here where I live, was wiped out on Irene. They put a temporary bridge in there pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I think it was different from the location of a new temporary bridge where we're talking because there are no right-of-way issues. They just used big concrete blocks for the abutments, but it went in pretty quickly.
Yes.
And I don't know, I think...
During Irene, all permitting was suspended, so you didn't have to deal with any of that. It was kind of carte blanche, you got it done, and right away is a huge piece.
And I think also, speaking of which, excuse me, Halifax. Halifax has the floor now. But, sorry, go ahead.
I have a question, actually.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify, when you talk about putting up a temporary bridge, is that instead of rehabbing the covered bridge, or is that in tandem with rehabbing the covered bridge?
We don't anticipate, just with permitting and whatever, that we could get a temporary bridge in place in, like as Sean described, in a couple months. I think best case scenario, it'd probably be a year before we got the temporary bridge in place.
No, I think it's quicker than that.
Oh, you think so?
If the right-of-way was cleared and, then we want a
Then
temporary
if you had a
bridge.
temporary bridge, would you not rehab the covered bridge? That's my question.
Do both.
We would do both.
The rehab money is there, it's got to be spent on rehab, so that's a given. The extra work for the deck and all of that is extra.
Right.
And what advantage we get out of that is debatable, whether it would bring us up to 8 ton or not if they went to change the deck and reevaluate. But no, the rehab is going to happen regardless. That money's already there.
There's funding sources available to apply for more money to broaden the rehab for option 2.
I think your point is if the covered bridge is kept for pedestrian use and so forth, and a good roof is kept on it, there's going to be very little maintenance.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to talk to people about they want to go to Tunbridge, they have 5 of them, and that's their experience. And you keep a good roof on it. And so there isn't going to be that much expense to it.
But I think the interesting, here's a chicken and an egg question. If we got a temporary bridge, lickety split, would we then not be eligible for funding for the Green River covered bridge because it is no longer used for?
Once it gets when it changes from town highway structure to bike ped, there's no funding.
But if we had a temporary bridge in place, it wouldn't be changed.
No, I don't think
No,
we'll change it. No.
because it would still be used for motor vehicle traffic.
Okay. Danny, did you want to say something?
No, the only thing I was going to just say, preserve what we got. And keep going on.
Yeah.
And I think somebody mentioned at some meeting also the fire retardant, if it goes to a pedestrian bridge or something.
Fire
There was a
retardant.
fire.
Yeah, that's already in the rehab, right? I think it's...
Some of it, I think, just the interior part, not the exterior.
Yeah,
Are we good?
I think so.
Can I just get, one last detail? So you're definitely committing to moving in the direction of a temporary/new bridge?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to know
We haven't
what
made
I'm working on.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And we haven't made a motion about that yet because Dick thought we should do something at the full when Troy's here. And also, having Jared and Mike and other people's input, and Addison will be back. Sean?
Yeah.
But I think we know we've needed to do that for a long time. And did everybody get the backside of this sheet too?
No, I had that. Those were just notes I had.
Okay, this is
Suggestions.
next.
Yeah, I like the one you got, yeah.
They got just the options from Hoyle and Tanner, and then these were some of the things that I was kind of reporting in to you. And
Sure, and this is really
Suggestions.
just laying out some next steps. I think that would be good to have
for Monday night.
for Monday night. It's like get a civil engineer to look where and a temporary and ultimately permanent bridge can go using Addison's proposal as a guide. And all, I mean, we've been talking about this stuff in here, but I think...
Yeah. So bottom line is, we're going to do the analysis of the bridge as is,
Right, that's in option 2.
option 2.
We still have a short-term
decision.
problem,
Yeah.
the 365-day problem.
No decision is made as to the new decking and all of that. It was strictly an
That would be
evaluation.
with the analysis.
Evaluation.
Yeah.
And the rehab will happen next year. regardless of
And
what we
helps
do
with-
downstream.
Yeah, and helps
Yes.
with additional
One
work.
final question. Is the stone abutment going to be worked on?
Those are separate, and
That's a
that's
separate
already,
That's-
yeah.
issue,
That's
right?
going
That's
summer.
doing this summer.
Yeah.
That's happening this summer.
Yep,
So,
yep.
And there was some
Has that
sense,
gone
RFP went
out to
out.
bid yet?
What's that?
Has that gone out to bid yet?
Not to bid, but RFP went out
Uh-huh.
for it.
and there was a sense or question in if, I wonder if some of the, damage, maybe there was damage to that abutment that affected the bridge. When we talk about what brought that load rating down, what was,
They pretty much ruled that out.
they ruled that out? Okay, all right.
And that was somewhat because of Irene, I believe, right? That abutment.
Oh, yeah, water was going up over that west wing wall, which I'd never seen before, so.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
No, but I do think that so in terms of this year that we're in right now, there's short of getting a temporary bridge in a few months, which I still think with right-of-ways and stuff is not going to be realistic. We're going to have to just inform people and do the best we can. We're just in that
I
situation.
think temporary bridge, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but if the commitment is made and the bridge is available, probably a month
Put it in?
to put the road down through, and I mean, I'm
It'd be
saying
longer than that.
the right of way and everything is done.
Ready for construction.
Right away, permitting.
It'd probably be longer than that. Probably almost close to 2 months.
Well, okay.
But still, yeah, but that has a lot of ifs in terms of permitting right-of-ways and stuff. So we need more information.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Anything Halifax side? All right.
Thanks for coming.
Leland and her husband Jared have an apple orchard that I'm going to tell you the Honey Crisps that come out of there are amazing.
Those are good apples.
You know.
Yeah.
You want to make a move?
I move that we adjourn.
All in favor, aye.